Hi, and welcome to VeterinaryLawyer.com. I'm attorney Anthony Mahan. Today we're talking about veterinary collections. This will be part one of a two-part video concerning veterinary hospital receivables. So let's get to it. First, I'd like to show you an overview of how collections typically works in a veterinary hospital. We start up here where you have a point of sale, and normally this is by check or credit because you don't have collections when someone pays cash. And then they're going to have a bounce check, or there's going to be a credit card chargeback, or you're going to leave them with an open invoice. The first and most profitable way to resolve this is to actually resolve it with the client directly or the credit card company where you can produce the slip. Most credit card companies require you to have those slips on hand for 60 to 90 days. 60 days being the federal law of which you're supposed to have those to present to the credit card company in the event of a chargeback. So if you resolve it with the client or the credit card company up here, you get paid. Otherwise, you need to move down to your set of collection letters. I advise all my clients to have about 3 progressive collection letters on hand that they use to send to the clients directly. And this will become evident as to why we do that in just a second. So if you send a collection letter, you resolve it with the client, then you're getting paid, and you also don't have to get down into the complex collections that you're going to see below. So the collection letters often resolve, and you will see in the next couple slides that time is of the essence. So the sooner you get those letters out, the better off you're going to be. So what do you do though if you can't resolve it directly with the client? And I want to present to you just a couple options to show you how collections work. Option one is you just write it off and you don't bother collections. My uncle, who owned his practice for 30 years, chose this option because he believed that collections would ruin his reputation. I disagree, but maybe that's because I've been a collection attorney for several years prior to starting VeterinaryLawyer.com, but I would not just write them off. You can issue a 1099 miscellaneous when you do that, but I would prefer to move on down to one of the other options. The second option is if you have a bounce check, you can take that check to a county attorney, at least in Ohio and Kentucky, and the county attorney can prosecute them under bad check statutes. Once again, our later videos will discuss those bad check statutes and how they might apply to you, but essentially what a county attorney does is they file criminal charges, and part of those criminal charges include that the client should have to repay the debt that they owe as a part of resolving the criminal charges. But county attorneys normally are not very adept at skip tracing, finding people that may have changed addresses, or garnishing bank accounts or garnishing wages. They don't really get into that. So the option 2 here is to get into the collection agencies, and there are plenty of collection agencies out there. They charge a fee, but you should really know what collection agencies do. The first thing they do is they send the same letters and make phone calls, the same things that you could do yourself. So why you pay somebody for that might just be for time, but they're probably going to take a 50% cut just to send their own letters and make phone calls. The only other option they would have to assist in collection is if they actually reported on the person's credit, which most of them wouldn't for the size of a veterinary bill. Now, when a collection company can't resolve an issue through letters and phone calls and or reporting on someone's credit, what they do is they actually hire an attorney if they don't have one in-house, and that attorney will file suit. So they're splitting that 50% fee with another collection lawyer, and then that collection lawyer is resolving that through civil court, through filing a lawsuit or what have you. What people don't realize is that you can actually go straight to the attorney's office, and that rate, you can get the same rate that the collection company is getting. So it's actually cheaper for you to go to a collection lawyer than it is to a collection agency. So cut out the middleman and just go here, because the attorney can send a letter and they can also back it up with a lawsuit, something that a collection agency can't do directly. All right, so time is of the essence for collecting all debts. However, as a professional, only push collections for routine accounts, and we'll talk about why that's important in just a little bit, maybe in video 2. But the odds of collecting a debt increase dramatically when they're collected sooner. Debts less than 90 days old have a 70-75% likelihood of being paid in full, whereas debts over a year have about a 30% chance of being paid in full. So don't sit on those debts and try to send them off all to a collections agency in one big package. It's actually better to get those collection letters out as soon as possible so you can increase your likelihood of being paid. One of the more interesting topics that I've brought up when I present this same issue at continuing education classes is what happens when a client brings you a 7-year-old dog for a spay and they pay a 50% deposit at a drop-off. They decline senior blood work, they sign an anesthesia and surgery consent forms. There were no noticeable complications during surgery, everything went fine, but the patient happens to pass away post-surgery while still at the hospital. And the issue I always ask the veterinarians is, what do you do with the invoice? Do you try to collect on it or not? And I'd say about 50-50 is the answer. 50% of the veterinarians just want to let it go, and the other 50% say, no, I performed a service, that's a complication that just happens, I should get paid. Hopefully it doesn't happen very often, and most of the time it doesn't. The problem is, as from an attorney's perspective, if you don't pursue getting paid, it does kind of make you look like you did something wrong. And that's kind of my problem with it. So I always ask the question, what do you do if the client is a good client? Well, the normal response is, well, if it's a good client, I'm not going to make them pay. And then what do you do if they're an angry client or a new client? Well, if they're one of those, then I want to get paid, which is actually counterintuitive to the likelihood of you getting sued. What you should do, and just a lawyer's opinion, my opinion for that matter, is if the client is a good client, that's the one you actually want to have pay for the bill, because you've built trust with that client, and that client is going to stay with you even though you're making them pay the bill. They understand the value of what you've given them. And a good client is not going to be the one that turns you in and harasses you with a board complaint or a malpractice suit. Whereas the angry client, they're likely to never come to you again. So if you're going to give somebody something away for free, then let the angry client leave, because they're not going to go on Facebook and Google Plus and everywhere else and write bad reviews about you. So you're trying to minimize the damage here, and you don't need to worry about minimizing the damage here, so you might as well get paid. At least that's my opinion. But we have a lot more to talk about when it comes to collections. We're going to start with part 2 of the video. Those of you that are members of VeterinaryLawyer.com can have access to that on the website in the members area. Those of you that aren't members of VeterinaryLawyer.com, now is a great time to join. We're giving a couple months free, and it's a small monthly fee after that. You get access to all of our videos. Thank you and have a good day.